She's been hailed as one of Britain's brightest young stars with the role in Seaforth and now this role in Priest. How important a role was it for you?
Very important. I don't think I've ever had such an immediate and spontaneous response to a script. I mean, with all my heart, I just felt yes, this big yes. I mean, it's very powerful, it's very moving, very witty, it's very challenging, very confrontational, and there's an air of fearlessness about Jimmy McGovern's writing. And you know, there was a fear that it might be controversial, but actually it's not, because it's coming from the heart. They're questions that are being asked with a lot of integrity. And so the film wasn't in any way attacking or condemning the church. It was just saying, let's look at these issues.
One of the issues raised in the film is whether or not a priest can break the seal of the confessional. Let's take a look at a clip.
You know, this man has come out of seminary, it's a lot of theory attached to the seal of the confessional, and suddenly he's thrown into a very real situation. A young girl comes to him and says she's being abused by her father. What does the priest do? I mean, I'm not going to come up with any glib answers to this. It's a big, big dilemma. I mean, you can argue that without, you know, absolute secrecy, then there would be no confidence. No one could go to the priest. So it's very valid. It's, you know, it's somewhere that a child can go. But it's dealt with in the film. You know, we talked to many priests and they've agreed this is how you deal with it. You ask, first of all, if the person who's confiding in you will allow you to go and talk outside of that particular circumstance and get help. Or you try and drop a hint or whatever, but it's a very, very complicated thing, and I'm not going to pretend that I've got any glib answers to this.
How did you go about researching the role? Did you already have a Catholic background?
Not at all. I mean, I didn't have any specific religious background. You know, occasional church service here and there. I went to a Methodist school for a couple of years, but so I had to get myself into the mindset of the Catholic Church. I talked to as many priests as I could. I read as much as I could. I went to Mass a lot. We had an advisor on the film. But in the end, I just had to find that place in myself where I could understand the vocational calling. And I managed to locate that.
Were there any problems in researching the role? I read somewhere that the Catholic Church weren't entirely cooperative.
No, the Bishop of Liverpool wasn't very helpful in the beginning, and he didn't want us to film in any churches in Liverpool, and there was an air of fear attached to the project. And a few doors were closed here and there. But then I'd like those people to see the film now, to see if there's anything to be frightened of, because I don't think there is.
Is it a true depiction of modern-day priesthood, then? I mean, some might say that there are priests who are very happily celibate.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the film isn't saying that that's not possible. I mean, my character actually says that he desires to be celibate. He wants the celibacy and the vocational calling. And this other priest says to him that you're asking too much. But actually, I think it's a very real and genuine calling this man has. It's a real vocation and a very real desire to transcend his sexuality you know, he doesn't want to be distracted by his sexuality. But at the same time, this man isn't being very realistic as to who he really is, and he's running away from his own true nature, which is a tragedy in itself. So the film isn't actually saying that it should be like this or it should be any other way. It's just saying, you know, look at these issues. Aren't they very important?
In spite of the harrowing themes in the movie, it is obviously very tragic, but it's also very funny. It made me laugh, it made me cry.
Right.
I find it incredibly moving.
Good.
But what's the one message that you hope people will take away with them?
Well, the one message for me is that it is prejudice and intolerance that keep us separate from each other as human beings, and by the end of the film, it is really pointing towards the fact that compassion and forgiveness are qualities that we have to be responsible for, and it's up to us. And the last image of the film, without giving too much away, is an image of communion, real communion. So it's a very positive and very uplifting film.